Okay, now if you've seen this chart, you already know that, well, I've already showed you this chart. Basically, this is the 12 signs of Zodiac. We already looked at this. 1, 5, 7, and 11 are numbers that don't have a right or a left-centered preference. Mathematically, the 1 doesn't have a left or right. When you're involving 1, 2, and 3 as the factors in mathematics, basically, but I've already been through that. If you watch the video that looks like this, now we're going to talk about this one. Now, this is the same chart that you've just seen a minute ago that I just showed you, but now it's written differently because we're going to look at different aspects. See, so here is the, see if we get there. Here's the, remember I told you about the 1, the 5, the 7, and the 11 that don't have a preference? Well, the same thing. But now we're kind of looking at different stuff. Now what we're going to look at here is how, in this version, these are the basic, this is a mathematical representation of the numbers 1 through 12 going up to center. That's the factor of 1. That represents mathematically the factor of 1. That means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So by a factor of 1, they go up to 12 by ones. The factor of 2, there's 3 factors. 1, 2, and 3 are factors that all the numbers have. The second factor then is 2. And this will represent the even numbers, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And I don't know if you can see that great, 12. Sorry, the lighting here is not so great. So understand that you have 12 up there. So basically that left column right there is a even numbers by 2s, by 1s, and this will be by 3s. The third factor is by 3s, 3, 6, 9, and 12. So what you're seeing here are 3 rows of numbers, and they're using the factors 1, 2, and 3 in mathematics. Now, a factor is a number that is going into other numbers, and all numbers have factors that go into them. So 4 is not considered a factor because the 2 is a factor and it goes into the 4 twice. So understand that 1, 2, and 3 are factors, and they literally are the numbers which go into all the numbers. So 2 goes into 4, 3 goes into 6, and 1 goes into 5. So basically, 1, 2, and 3 are the factors in mathematics which go into all the numbers in the universe. They all take 1, 2, and 3. 6, so now look, what we're going to look at here. Let me grab a kind of pointer here so I can show you what I'm talking about, and I'll try to get this light so it's actually, okay, so you can see the whole chart. You should be able to basically see the whole chart now. I'll try to get better lighting next time. Sorry, this is not that difficult, though. You should be able to see it. Okay, so now what we have here are the 3 lines. Okay, now what we have here is left Taurus, right Gemini, left Cancer. So again, we have preferences for right-centered or left-centered. So if you look at this as the center of selfishness or the center self-centeredness, up this line by factor of 1 is called self-centeredness. It starts with Aries, and it goes up by 1s. It's the center of self. Now, what you'll have is the left and the right. You have the leftists and the rightists. So Taurus is going to be basically a leftist in the mathematical sense, because the second factor of 2 is got to by the fact that a factor of 1 goes to 2, and also a factor of 2 goes from 0 to 2, which means that in the 3 factors, 2 is used in 2 of the 3 factors. So the only factor that 2 is not used in is the third factor of 3. And 3 has 2, but understand, it's not literally used in the factor of 3s. It's only used in the factor of 1s and 2s. So you could see this 2, 2. Now you'll see this 3, 3. It's the same principle. The Gemini is not a leftist. Gemini is a conservative, like a rightist. And ultimately they could be a leftist literally if they want to, in the sense that it doesn't have to, because you're left doesn't mean you're leftist, and because you're right doesn't mean you're a conservative. Literally the ones on the left could be rights and the ones on the rights could be left. So understand that we have Geminis has a right-centered preference. Cancer will be left-centered. Now, Leo has no preference, so the 5 doesn't have a left or right-centeredness. Now the Virgo, see this? Left Virgo, right Virgo. Understand 666. It's because 6 is a number where all factors go into it. So 2 times 3 is 6, 3 times 2 is 6, and 1 times 6 is 6, which means the factor 1 times 6 is 6, goes into 6, and 2 times 3 goes into 6, and 3 times 2 goes into 6. So understand 6 is the first number here that all factors go into. Understand, only 1 goes into 5, 2 goes into 4, but 3 won't go into 4. 1 goes into 2, and 2 go into 4, but not into 3. See, so 3 will go into 6. So understand all of these numbers. 2 has a factor, goes 1. You could look and see 3 will use the factor of 1. 4 uses the factor of 2. 5 uses the factor of 1. 6 uses the factor of 1, 2, and 3, which makes 6 or Virgo balanced in the zodiac. Here's an example mathematically which will show you why Virgo is considered balanced, because it will be left and right centered and able to be having no preference as well. Okay, if you look up here now, we have Scorpio. Scorpio is left centered. Sagittarius will be right centered. Capricorn will be left centered. Now again, look at the 11. Aquarius doesn't have a preference. So now we have 7 with no preference, 11 with no preference. It's not right or left oriented. It could be either one, but it could be neither one, more importantly. And in the 12, look, we have the same idea, 12, 12, 12. Why? Because the factors that go into 6, that go into 12, are 1, 2, and 3. And 12, 1, 2, and 3 will go into 12, just like it goes into 6. 6 goes into 12 twice, which means the 2 most balanced signs in the zodiac will be Virgo and Pisces. Clearly, the most balanced, able to do everything on either field, meaning this is a left winger, a right winger in the 7 or in the 6 of Virgo. Ultimately, if you don't have a preference, you could also be either one. So understand that because Leo has no preference, it doesn't mean they can't be either one. They could be either one, but they truly don't have a preference. Virgo will have a preference of kind of a different way of either one, meaning the 5 could do right or left, but it certainly has no preference. And Virgo does right and left, and certainly is doing left and right as a preference. So doesn't have no preference. See, there's no circle on the 6 because Virgo doesn't have no preference. Virgo has a left preference with the right preference together, and ultimately, so that makes Pisces also the same. Now, if you say, yeah, but I know Virgos that are all off balance, or I know Pisces that are not balanced. Well, that's true. There's many of them. If they lose the 2, if Virgo or Pisces loses the 2, they will be a Virgo or Pisces that's not at all balanced. So yeah, just because Pisces and Virgo are the most balanced doesn't mean that Pisces and Virgos will be balanced. They might be really off balance or the most not balanced. What else is important to know about this chart? The 1 goes into itself once, and the 1 is the only number in the zodiac that is singular. 1 is a singular number, goes into itself once, and it can go into itself one time. 1 is the only number that can go into itself, and it does go into itself one time. Understand the 1 goes into the 2 twice. It goes into the 3 times. So understand the 2 cannot go into the 1, and the 3 can't go into the 1. 3 doesn't go into 1, right? Does 4 go into 1? Understand that 1 goes into 4 times, into 3 times, into 2 times, into 1 time. Itself is 1, which means that the 1 is different from all the other numbers in the zodiac because the 1 is truly singular and 2 is plural. This is the first plural number, and truly every number, every sign can be plural, starting with 2. The 1 is not plural. Therefore, Aries will be treated differently in my zodiac. And understand, it's not my zodiac. It's your zodiac. Understand that the real astrology will have to teach you the real truth. The Romans would have counted this out or maybe the goddess counted this out before because she didn't want to make Aries special. And she did. This is also ego, the base ego, and it was not liked, which means there's no reason to talk nice about the ego if goddess hates the ego. And she doesn't hate the ego anymore. She's ultimately trying to teach it how to come back correctly by having her. So understand what's so important about this first sign. What's singular? Well, let's just say that for SIN, we'll say that's short for singular. You could also make that a U. Call it sun. It's sin or sun. It's dad or son. It's ultimately going to be ego. It's the ego itself that misbehaved. And ultimately, why did you not get taught this in school? Because they took astrology out of school. Because goddess did not want people being taught how the ego's good or how the ego is special. And ultimately, the ego's thought to be not good and not special. And understand, we're not bringing back some ego that's bad. We know the ego's bad. It's not going to ever come back. But with goddess, it may, which means singular may not come back ever. So if the one is singular, how can it may not come back? Because it will come back as a plural. And how does it do it? It has to become a prime 2. So what does this mean? The 1 as ego can come back as a 2. It'll have to be a 2 that has both halves. So this is a fraction. This singular represents one half that doesn't have the other half. So we might as well go like this. 1/2, my friend, is what the 1 is. The ego does not have her. It's egotistical because it won't have this goddess. And understand why it's bad. Why it'll also be ousted and hated. And understand why it's going to be allowed to come back. Because it's only 1/2. If it gets both halves, it'll be 1/1 now. What does 1/1 mean? It means 1 her and 1 him. 1/1. What does it equal? 1, right? Doesn't it? Doesn't 1/1 equal 1? Yeah, so does 2/2. What does 2/2 equal? 1. Are you kidding me? You mean 2/2 equals 1? Yes, it does. In fact, 3/3 equals 1. 4/4 equals 1. So wait a minute. You're saying this singular is not a whole number. It's a fraction. That's right. It's 50% of not. It's only 50%. It's 1/2. So when it gets 2 halves, it won't be 1/1. It'll be 2/2, which is 1. Now, what's this mean? See this 1 right here? It's not 1. It is certainly not 1. It is 2. It represents 2. Two halves, which is 1 whole. And understand what 1 whole is, my friends. One holy. Holy, 2 parts is called holy. Holiness is both halves. The 2 halves become 1, not 2. They will not be. This is called prime 2 in mathematics. And why the prime 2 leads the prime group and not the 1. The 1 was removed and put in its own group and called it in the special numbers group in mathematics. And we'll talk about that in the future.